How you doing? You must be one of our new people.
I am.
I don't know. How do we know? The button is up.
Thumbs up.
Okay.
All right, January 2nd, 2024, 1:30, we're gonna call the meeting to order. Please stand for pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, President today is Carlo Cifarelli, Robert Lewis.
Yep.
David Root,
Yes.
Kylie Lawrence, Paul Abraham.
Yes.
Hope no one's here for the public, anybody online?
Just open up the chat.
Is Maria just not here?
I don't, yeah, she said last meeting she wasn't.
Okay.
Nobody else online.
No one's online. All right. The next item's up, everybody got to read the minutes for November and December's meetings. I make a motion to approve those minutes.
Second, Robert Lewis.
Item up to the financial report,
No change over
no
last.
change. So the next item up is the Tetra Tech Task Authorization 2024. Comments phase one.
Everybody had a chance to read it? Okay. We were supposed to have a representative here today to actually go through and talk it, but I'll go ahead and cover it for you guys. Daniel Potter, Public Works Director. The not to exceed amount for this is $397,600, and it is looking to do basically the admin and scoping side of the house for the entire park master plan. So the administrative side, the management, construction management, and the actual design. It's outlined. I printed it out. If I can pass it around if anybody wants to look at it. What that all entails, what we're looking to do in the master park plan, and the actual dollar signs associated with it. So. Any questions from the committee?
Any idea when it's gonna be started? We're still working on it.
So really, there's multiple options here. It's either we go in-house with Tetra Tech and we use the subcontractor to do this work. Or we suggest to the board that they go forward and solicit for design with another firm. If you do that, that may drag it out because it'll become a formal RFP process to go out to the streets and do a selective bid. You do it with Tetra Tech, it's going to be a little bit faster. If we go out to the street, I believe it'll probably add about 5+ months to the overall. Then you still got to get into the actual design. Design probably take a year to a year and a half before we can go out and solicit for RFP for actual construction. You're looking at about 2.5 years.
How was Tetra Tech? I know they do a lot of work here. How were they selected to do this particular job?
Actually, so what we did, we tried to work around and use Holmontes, who is a subcontractor through Tetra Tech, so that we didn't have to go through the whole selection process and go to the streets because of how much time it would add to do an entire bid packet just for design before construction. So Holmontes would actually be the sub that would be handling all this to Tetra Tech. And Tetra Tech is our engineer of record for the CDD. So they're our go-to engineers. They've got the first right of refusal for all of our engineering across the board for the district.
Forever?
Per our contract, as it's outlined right now, it's not forever, but it's, I can't speak to how long. Maybe Carol knows how long the
How long is
Tetra
their
Tech contract
relationship
is.
with us?
changed in probably the last 4 to 5 years that I've been attending different things. I haven't been on the board that long.
I know that's easier, but I don't understand why we don't do it legally. I'm not sure.
Oh, this is still illegal.
Legally, I know why we do it that way and we've got a contract with them, but why we never like look at 3 different groups now.
Well,
I know they did way back when.
we,
but-
we typically do, but this is underneath a bond. So there's a timeline associated with expending the money. Uh,
The bond, which bond?
our bonded money for this master park
I
plan.
thought we had like a 20-year bond.
We do, but there's associated bonds with getting this work done. When we've applied for that bond had stipulations on timelines. So we're trying to stick to or adhere to a more streamlined timeline for this one.
And the major master park was part of that.
Correct. So open for discussion.
Well, I thought last time we were in our notes, somewhere in our last notes that we just approved, and I forgot the name now, but there was going to be a questionnaire go out, and there was like questions that we were asking questions to the community or someone. And that was part of this whole thing, trying to figure out what exactly we did need or want. Okay, in that park. And it seems like now, when you look at page 13, you're seeing kind of all of it spelled out, which kind of like implies that whatever that thing was going to give us, that information, that this is going to supersede that or overdo something that we haven't gotten the information for. I'm not saying that correctly, but what's happening with that?
We're still
last-
trying to get that survey platform pulled
Well,
together.
that's to me, shouldn't that go before this?
Definitely could.
Yeah, but
the
and
master
the
park
thing,
plan
the thing about this,
Fairly
guy-
ironed in at this
the
point.
thing that I read about this is like, sometimes we go too fast. And sometimes, I mean, we've been talking about this park for 2.5 years that I've been around. And sometimes we go too fast. Like I think the building that we're going to be building over in the, by the pool.
Yeah, admin building.
There were some major mistakes on that from an architectural point of view. And I voiced all those, but it went nowhere. Okay, so they're going to be building a building that Tetra Tech was, responsible for. And the process and the timing of that didn't allow changes to be made. The community didn't, it's like right now there's seats here for people, but I don't think most of the people even know that they can come here and comment about anything. So I'm still concerned that we aren't getting community input. Last time we said, let's have some meetings in the evenings, but I don't think anybody will show up for those either. Okay, we need to, somehow, we're not getting feedback. And this proposal to me is like, it just kind of puts it all together and says, okay, Tetra Tech's going to get this sub consultant and they're going to do all this work all the way down to, putting in the nuts and bolts of everything. And even somewhere along there, it says we're not going to have any community meetings to slow us down in this. If you read this thing, one thing bold, I wish I could find it. Anyway, bold is this, we're not going to have input, basically. And Tetra Tech, is like, here we go again. We're going to give them permission. We're going to give the board, the main board, total permission that we're rubber stamping this, saying that we're giving them permission to get Tetra Tech and let's do it again, put our heads down and not look back. And so they will do all the drawings, they will do all the design, they'll do all the master planning, which I still think hasn't been done yet. And this is going to say, we're going to do it. We're going to do the master planning. But they've already said in a couple of meetings I've sat in, at least I heard, oh, the master plan's already there. We've put it on the wall a couple of times. And I don't think that's what I've ever seen is really the master plan that we want to say, yeah, this looks great. Let's do this. Okay. And there's going to be changes along the way. And every time there's changes or another phase, there's going to be more money that's going to be taken out of the coffers and we're going to do things over and over again if we don't do it in the right order and we don't slow it down to where we're doing it correctly. So that's my concerns. Okay.
Is it not, it's actually Whole Montes that's doing the,
Yes, it's a sub consultant underneath Tetra
Okay.
Tech, correct. They're the one that's actually created and then done the master plan for us already up to date.
yeah.
They're the ones
I
that give
remember
us
seeing that.
our outline and our preliminary sketch, if you will. Everything that you've seen so far has already come from Whole Montes.
And I know we say no one will come to evening meetings and maybe they wouldn't, but I can say as like a working mom, meetings during the day are very, very hard. And when I have conversations with a lot of parents in this community that I'm friends with and know, they're like, we could never go to a 1:30
Right,
meeting.
right.
and
Well,
have
that's
an
why-
Opinion about anything. So we just ignore it because it's during our workday and we can't pay attention to it.
So
So
we moved in our last meeting,
Yeah.
you weren't here, but we moved because we thought it was a good idea
Right.
to have 3 or 4 a
Sure.
year where people can come and
Mhm.
we need to encourage them to come.
sure,
Okay. But sometimes, when we do that,
Of course.
nobody advertises it and nobody knows what we're even
I
gonna
would
talk
agree
about.
with
So
that.
they don't come because they don't want to just sit here and if they don't know what's going on.
sure. I agree.
This task authorization would go over basically the project management, the civil design and permitting. Further development after going through and refining what we have for the master plan and documenting it. The permit and review for construction plans, all of the regulatory notes and design documentation. It would also authorize Tetra Tech and Whole Montes to go through and prepare all the applications for Lee County. And also with SwiftMud, so South Florida Water Management District.
Yeah.
And any amendments and applications after that. It also incorporates the landscape side of the house, the lighting side of the house, and any impact for traffic over there as well. They'll capture a traffic study.
Can you define the house, quote unquote, the house? What is the house?
House.
Yeah, you said the house, HOUSE. On the side of the house.
And the house.
The house being
I
Maybe I
think
didn't
Gateway
read
CD.
gateway, the
Yeah.
gateway.
Oh, sorry, the side of the house, the CDD side of the house
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
for
Oh,
us
oh,
as the district. Yeah.
I think by agreeing to this, you're agreeing to do the whole project and all the way down to the nuts and bolts. And I think if you split this part a little bit and gave, like different approvals at different points in time, master planning and project management for $100,000 to get it started. Once again, what were we calling that last thing that's supposed to be with all the questions?
Survey.
A survey, once the survey's completed and we know what we're wanting in the master plan. See, I keep seeing things up on a wall that says master plan. The master plan was done before anybody was even talked to 2.5, 3 years ago. Okay, and there was no discussion to the community or anybody how they even wanted pickleball courts. At that time, nobody wanted anything. And they voted it all down and said, don't ever bring it up again. So, I'm a firm believer we need to do something, but it's not like, I'm waiting for the community to tell me what to do, but I could do a master plan without anybody's input. But that doesn't, and put it on the wall and say, there's our master plan. If everybody goes along with it, then we got a master plan. But right now, it hasn't been designed. The thought process hasn't even been talked about. Okay, how people are going to come to this park, how they're going to get in. Are we putting a fence around the whole thing so everybody outside of the community can come in? Or are we just going to allow anybody to come that wants to enjoy it? What's the whole process? And if you do the master plan, you got to have kind of a game plan of how it's going to work. But to give Tetra Tech or what is it, Whole
Whole Montes.
Yeah, that other group, okay, the ability to just take it and run with it and they'll do the whole thing in a year or whatever and meet our, meet our obligations for the monies that have been appropriated. Okay, it's like, to me, we can
Well-
still meet that deadline, but you gotta do it in pieces, not all in one big, here it all is. That's just, again, I'm gonna be quiet now and let you
Oh, you're
guys.
good. So David, this is Daniel again. Just want to reiterate, this is a part of that the design is a part of walking it through those stages so that we can develop what we really want as a whole. What you've seen up to date was nothing more than a concept design. It's nothing much more than a concept sketch. And it isn't on the technical side. It doesn't develop out those fence lines. It doesn't go into that depth. It just gives an idea of what we can do with the space. That's what this portion of what we're trying to do for the actual design part of this TA is to go through and methodically go about how we pick and select what we're going to do in the master park plan and then codify it. So not to be confused as like, this is concrete and this is what we're going forward with. This is a background. And there are touch points in this that allow us to come back and put inputs in. Hopefully we can get that survey out and then get feedback from the survey as well and incorporate it into this as well.
Polio grant. So this is just a scope management document, basically, that'll live and breathe as we progress on through any of the changes that we want to make. This is just overall
Correct. And it gives it a not to exceed amount
understood.
based on each task.
Can I chime in?
Go ahead, Chelsea.
Hey, everybody, Happy New Year.
Happy New
So,
Year.
thank you. As you see in this document, like any task authorization we've done with Tetra Tech, there are thresholds that we would have opportunities for review. And so that review would come through this subcommittee or this committee and the Board of Supervisors. So the pretty picture concept has essentially been vetted through this track and the Board of Supervisors already. Now it's like Daniel said, it's reviewing the technical components of it. Okay, what fits? What's the code require? How many parking spots? What's the site lighting that's required? Of course, we have to meet ADA. And as they progress through design, we've kind of worked and discussed this internally with Holmontes and Tetra Tech. What components are going to take a little bit more design work done, like architectural, like the amphitheater or the band shell, whatever we're calling it, compared to a playground. Really, in talking with some of these playground manufacturers, they just need the site to be in good condition. So the grading done, and then whatever the pitch or slope is for the drainage. And then the playground manufacturer, they have installers, once you decide on whichever playground that you want, they come, they slap it in, and that's pretty much done. And then the same thing goes with, pickleball courts, all of these unique components that there's not really much design, but it's more of making sure it fits within the bounds of the property, making sure the drainage is addressed, the lighting's addressed where appropriate, making sure from a big picture standpoint that the flow of the site makes sense. And that's where, we've got that pretty picture painted, but we really need to start to get into the technical components of this project.
David, I'm sure being an architect, you'd understand that there's going to be the preliminary engineering report done, which is a 30% design. It'll go through stages through a 60%, 90%, 100% completion of design. All have touch points for feedback in them. Specifically designed that way when you go through design of something like this.
Here's Robert Lewis here. I have a question. A few months ago, we were shown two variations of what the park would look like, and I have one on my phone here. And I'm pretty sure that the input from our committee was we favored one over the other. And I thought that was going to be the design of the park. So what is it that we're talking about to do at this point?
The technical specifications for that.
Okay. So this is what it's going to be. So now you just need the technical stuff.
Yes.
Well, Bob, the board took your input from the PrAC. And then
Right.
they reviewed the two as well. And then they ended up selecting one of the two to proceed with edits. They made some edits. I think they took out beach volleyball. And they wanted to move the bocce courts closer to the court sports and have some gardens, I believe. So
Okay.
that direction that the board gave at that meeting is ultimately what was given to Tetra Tech and Holmontes to draft the scope of this.
Okay, so going back to David Ruth's comments, should we be presenting to the community the diagram of what the park's going to look like to get public input as to whether or not this is feasible to the community?
We are working on a document, like a frequently asked questions that we're hoping to put out in tandem with the questionnaire, the questions that you all came up with. I've got to sit down with staff and review those questions. And we got to
Okay,
figure out a means to put that out. I know last time that there was some concern with duplicate responses and how do you control that? So we've got to brainstorm that internally, but of course, you know, all of these meetings are public meetings. We want to encourage public comment. If they can't participate physically, they can always send an email or send a note that we can read into the public records. And I know that you guys changed at your last meeting to have a couple night meetings to hopefully help facilitate some additional communication from the residents or the working families. So we'll get there.
okay, so back to what David was talking about, rather than start spending money now on technical services or technical evaluation, why don't we first wait to hear what the community says? Because if it's an overwhelming, no, we don't want it, then we're spinning our wheels. Is that what you were talking about, David?
That's a good point, and I think that's something that can be brought up with the board. There is funding allocated to at least get phase one off the ground. And ultimately that phase one, which was approved by the board, that this incorporates. And plans out, you know, this could be future, whatever future phases. There's a lot of green space that is remaining on this property that I think could accommodate additional amenities in the future if the community wanted them. I think if I'm a firm believer is, and David Ruth, don't shoot the messenger, don't shoot me when I say this, but engineers and architects, they love to overanalyze and overthink and build the heck out of you. I think a lot of this is really stormwater drainage that we need to have assessed by these engineers. And then it's kind of like a puzzle, you know, what fits where, what makes sense where. Until we can kind of get that basic notion of the stormwater engineering and what puzzle pieces fit where, then, you know, we can say, once we get to, you know, 30%, 60%, 90% design, what's the engineer's opinion of probable cost for construction looking at? Are we exceeding budget or are we coming in under budget? Do we need to shave off and move some of these amenities to future phases based on our current budget availability? The timeliness is, I believe, is imperative because we're going to be hopefully under construction with the admin building within 2024. So you're already going to have a contractor in place that is already going to be doing site work that you may be able to save some mobilization and demobilization costs. If you can tie in some of these pieces like the playground as an example, or pickleball courts. Some of these amenities can be decided, do we really need, you know, X amount of bathrooms? Sure. That can be evaluated based on, you know, are we going to do the amphitheater or the band shell in the next year or two? Probably not, because it's going to take some time with permitting, design work, etc. So ultimately, we're looking for your feedback. This is going to the board on Thursday for their consideration based on the comments provided at, I don't know, a handful of meetings ago. But we're looking for your input on this.
Yeah, Robert Lewis here again. I think one of the things we really need to think about is we want to avoid the uproar that they're experiencing in Cape Coral because their Parks Department wanted to convert and beautify one of their parks, which was met with tremendous resistance. And, you know, we're spending a lot of time, and I just want to make sure that the community is not going to be in an uproar.
On the gateway.
I can't hear Ed. Is Ed talking?
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, much better. Thanks, Ed.
Okay. I was saying that, we're not going to eliminate the uproar. We can curb some of it, but just like the Gateway Facebook page and this water fountain out here, you know, it's ridiculous. It's a beautiful fountain. It's going to be gorgeous and people are going to love it after it's installed. They just want to bitch about something. And we're going to get that no matter what we do. And I think we need to have that expectation that we're going to get that because we just are.
Well, and to expand on Ed's point, I think misinformation or no information is bad because that starts the rumor mills. And I think, you know, staff has been working diligently on this frequently asked questions, really for the admin building, but we can expand that with the Parks and Rec, you know, what questions that may come up, and put that out in tandem with this survey. That way people get the information from the source and they don't hear it from next door or their HOA's Facebook group, etc.
You know, we live in an era now of artificial intelligence, and I think it would be important to have a way to show people an animation of what it will actually look like, you know, with buildings and trees and stuff like that, as opposed to reading words on a page. You know, most people are visual. And if we had a way to create, hey, you're going to walk through the park, this is what it's going to look like. I mean, we have to sell this to the community.
To Bob's point, I think that what the city of Fort Myers has been doing really well is they've been taking out boards to the community that show what things are gonna look like and actually letting them give input on another board. They did it at the Collaboratory, at an event there where they were like, what do you guys want to see here? And people actually voted in real time and felt like they were a part of it with sticky notes. And then they brought that information back to a discussion like this and discussed it, that community input, so that they actually felt like there was something added value from the community other than just us all talking amongst ourselves. So I think that that is another way besides a survey. I know surveys are sometimes good, sometimes bad. It just depends. Like, I mean, people pretty standard answer a survey the way they're going to answer it. So that's not always the best way. Maybe trying to get to, I don't know if we have any events coming up that we could do that at, or if we could invite some people out, but it's just an idea.
Polio Grand, I think in general, I don't want to say advertising, but maybe for lack of a better word, advertising these changes or these enhancements is super important. For example, I was at the pool probably between 8 and 10 times in the past month, and no one knows that there's a splash pad discussion. No one has an idea what that even is, or where that would go, or what it entails, or how it's going to benefit. Or so, you know, the vast majority of the people, I think, don't know what these things, and a lot of these I think are really great ideas. But going back to dissemination of knowledge is super important, and I think I agree with Dave where we have to kind of slow ourselves down, not necessarily from a budgetary perspective. I understand that this being the master plan is just budgeting and we need to prepare for that anyway. That's okay. But I think with these ideas, we really need to get more input some way, somehow, whether it be a survey. My concern with the survey is, again, the timing of it.
Yeah.
we've all talked about it now for quite a few weeks. And, that's something I kind of feel from, a little bit of a marketing background, that has to just happen. So we're late to the game there, so I think we need to improve our communication methods.
On page 14, it says task 2, civil design and permitting, and in big bold letters at the bottom of the page. This task assumes that no public hearings will be required. That's my biggest fear, is that in some of the other work that's been done around here, that there's been no public hearings required, and so things just happen, and by the time you get around to putting in your 2 cents worth, okay, it's 90% done, and they've already collected half their fees for it.
Dave, that public hearing is referring to a change for permitting with the county, not a public hearing that the district could hold in trying to receive public input.
Oh, okay.
That-
Thank you. I didn't understand that. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is Ed. I really like your idea about showing, and this is just a big what if. What if we actually mark places off at the pool with flour or whatever, right? And have
Or a banner or something.
banners. This is where the pickleball court probably will be. I mean, we have to give ourselves caveats for the engineers and all that stuff. But why not lay it out and have a big event at the pool to say, hey, this is where we're going with all of this, right? And have a party and make it positive. And you will get people to come.
And feedback.
And feedback, exactly. And that would, I think, curb a lot of the crap, coming back at us, because there would be a lot of positive things going on. That's a thought. Because that could be done.
The big question that people are going to have is the district going to send me a bill, an assessment, how much money out of my pocket are you going to be taking to fund this? And that's the bottom line. I think everybody will say, it's great. We have kids. We'd love to have a playground. We like pickleball and all this stuff. But the bottom line is, how much money is it going to cost me to do this? That's what
So-
people are concerned about.
So, Bob, that is where the frequently I'm getting feedback. Can you hear me?
What
Can you
was
hear
that?
me? Okay. Okay.
Bella.
Can you hear me now?
She's coming back up. Yes.
Still getting feedback. That's okay. Still getting feedback. That's okay. I think those charades that Ed is talking about can be done at the 30, 60, 90% design. But without having something to show, then it's difficult. Then it's difficult.
Maybe we include a great big map of what it's going to be, posted on the pool wall, so that everybody that visits that will see it. And just have the tape and, like you said, the banners, saying pickleball courts here, basketball courts here, that type of thing, because I mean, that's easy.
I also think that to a certain extent, we're talking about budget and how much, to Bob's point, how much people are going to pay and all that. There may be some things in here that, forget who mentioned it before, but maybe we're biting off a little more than we need to, right? With some of these things, maybe we find out with feedback that some of these things, although we think they're great ideas, the community doesn't need them or want them. right? So we can invest a little bit more of those funds towards things that are more important, like, the park. Everyone's super excited about the park. Let's put a little bit more money into that as opposed to the fishing pier and the lake overlook, because really no one's interested in that. I don't know. I think, yeah, definitely going to the existing facilities and kind of advertising these things and giving people, was something I wanted to bring up was mention of, yes, we have the Facebook, right? But maybe having our own Parks and Rec portion of that, where people can communicate specifically just activities and things that we're doing or wanting to build. Because you could do a lot of these surveys too, right through that platform, right? And maybe the gateway Facebook is a little too large, but there's other utilities that really are cost effective. It doesn't cost us a lot marketing wise, doesn't cost us a lot survey wise, that we could take up using technology that would expedite this whole process, I think, regarding communication up front, and allow us to kind of jump in and get insight before we get too far into the weeds, like that 30, 60, 90. That's all.
All right, so anybody else have anything else?
So I guess for this, what are we doing? Are we making a motion to accept this right now? Or is this like information currently? This task authorization?
Well, the requested motion is to review and recommend for approval to the board after reviewing it. So you can change or amend that however you guys think fit.
This is a pretty important thing, and we took a month to put these two people in their seats. Okay, and I got this at about 10 o'clock this morning to review. And my first impression was, why, I don't understand why we just can't do let's authorize these guys and give them a contract for $100,000 to do the master planning and project management, and let them figure out, if we're going to put the park here, we're going to put the pickleball courts here. Well, at one time, in the summertime, we were talking about getting some kind of a grant for the pickleball courts, and we were just going to put those in the back corner. Okay, and everybody agreed to that. That'd be a good thing to go for. And then, I've heard nothing about that. I think, Chelsea, you were doing that. And we were trying to get some other things, started by, some kind of grants or whatever. And then all of a sudden now we've got a scope of professional services for almost $400,000 that we're supposed to approve or look at one day and tell the board, yeah, this looks good to us. That's a rubber stamp as far as I'm concerned.
Dave, can I chime in?
Sure.
So this agenda went out what's today? Last Tuesday. So the packet has been published for over a week. That you read it this morning at 10 a.m. I'm sorry, I'm sure you were busy over the holidays, but the concept that you're talking about and wanting Tetra Tech and Holmontes to do, they've already done. We've already spent, money to do that, and they painted the pretty picture of where, conceptually things should fit. We've given feedback on that. The next step is to go into design. And so, as you know, being an architect, Dave, that most grants, you have to have a shovel-ready project in order to get it funded. We were successful in one of the grants, but the board said, hey, let's hold off, because they wanted to look at the bigger picture. That it was the outdoor fitness court, the national fitness campaign that we were successful in. But again, the board said, no, let's hold off. Let's take a step back. Let's look at the bigger picture and how that plays into what the Commons Park could be. And so that's really where we're at today. We're looking for your direction, your input, your comments. Like I said, this is going to the board on Thursday for their consideration. The funding is available. It's there to get us. This task authorization would get us all the way up to receipt of a construction bid and through the bidding process. So Again, the timing, we've been chomping at this for, what you say, since summer. So we're talking over 7, 8 months. Really, I mean, input if you have issues with what is included in it, or if you think it should be trimmed back, that's really what we're looking for feedback on.
I think everybody's given input. Okay, so I don't see anything, basically it'll go to the board and they'll basically decide, whether to spend $400,000 or not. And half of, you said the first part, the master planning, the $100,000 already been kind of done and spent. So, really, what more do you need from us except to have everybody give a motion and approve it or disprove it?
This is Ed. I do have one question about the fishing pier in the lake overlook. It was my understanding, and maybe I was just confused on that, that the Southwest Florida Water people won't let us do that.
No.
Okay,
That
so that has to
won't
come,
make it through the initial
so
round.
that has to come out
Yep.
for sure. And as long as we have the ability to make some minor changes. I mean, I don't think we're going to see any major changes from this with surveys or whatever. We need to have this done. And obviously, the longer we put it off, the further out the project gets. If the money's already there, I personally don't have a problem with going forward on it, as long as we can make, some of those minor changes.
The opportunities are there to make actually minor and major changes across the board throughout the design process.
Okay,
Make your motion.
Then-
Is that a motion?
then I would make that motion as defined earlier to approve this.
I'll second that. Anyone disagree?
One,
Oh, we have one. David disagrees, so motion's been passed. The next item up is the member items and reports.
So I know last time that we were together, I promised that I would get back the feedback from Playmore with regards to the playground over the commons. Sadly, I overpromised on that one. They were unable to get me back their proposal incorporating the swing sets with the dome structure that I previously brought to you all. Right now, they're working with their CAD manager, who just came back in off a vacation, took a nice lengthy vacation. And as soon as I get that, I will get that back in front of you as well for finalization to move forward with. That was about the only other item that I had that didn't make it into this one from last meeting. That being said, I'm starting to see the trend of our agenda starting to shrink, which was the whole purpose of us moving to multiple times a week or multiple times a month. We would put it back out there for the committee to consider that schedule now, whether or not you would like to keep it, retain it, change it, modify it to better fit your needs as our agenda list has begun to shrink.
Yeah, I think we should go back to once a month. Anybody disagree with that? No, so I'm gonna make a motion to set the schedule back to one time a month. Guess we'll make it what was it originally, the first Tuesday of the month?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyone have any objections to that?
We could change it as needed.
Yeah, we can always change it, add an extra of this.
And that'll still incorporate the evening meeting. I think they were
The next-
quarterly.
February 6th, I believe, was an evening meeting.
we could always change it to 4 times and we could still do it the first of the month.
Well,
Okay.
I would just recommend before a evening meeting, then have another one just to prepare for that evening meeting. Like,
We could
Just
see
thought.
what- Yeah, when it gets closer, we could do
Right.
what's on the agenda and that's necessary. So I'm gonna make a motion to have the meetings once a month, the first Tuesday of every month. At 1:30, unless it's unless we schedule a night.
I would second.
Any objections? All right, so that's gonna pass.
So then the next meeting would be the 16th of January to prepare for the February 6th. Is that what it is?
What will there be to prepare?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that, I'm listening to Paul.
Right, so that's the concept would be, maybe we do have something to prepare, right? An agenda that's a little different than where we want feedback, right? So again, advertising ahead of time, a week or two before, making sure that people understand that there's gonna be an evening meeting and this is the topics that we'll be discussing and this is the feedback we'd like.
Putting
Something together.
on Facebook.
Right.
You know, that people will know that it's coming and
Right. And I just feel like having a separate meeting just to discuss that portion of preparation. Because we want to maximize it. If we're having a meeting where people are coming, we want to make sure that they understand that, you know, we're engaging them. We want them to be a part of it. And these are the topics that we're working on right now, you know, so maybe even a little more presenting to the public, like, okay, this is what we're doing actively. As opposed to whatever is on the agenda to discuss here, you know, that's really, I don't think, super beneficial. As opposed to letting everyone know what we're doing.
Assuming that people are going to show up, we need the big screen TV up there with a presentation.
Sure.
And even if it shows, you know, the proposed park plan.
Yeah, I think just the proposed park plan up there and a little bit of just telling everybody what the plan is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we need anything really more than that. So it's-
Should we let them also know about the impact of moving the dog park and
Yeah, I mean, that
when
could be
that will occur?
incorporated into all that.
Yeah, I think we should let them know everything.
Yeah. Dog park being moved, phase one of the proposed changes to the commons. I mean, does anybody have anything else that they want to add into that?
Well, maybe show them a picture of the playground equipment that we're.
Yeah,
looking to
sure.
get.
that's
Things
what
like
we'll-
that,
Yeah, all of that stuff, that's all incorporated into that
Mhm.
phase one, whatever we have. But I don't think we need separate
Well,
meeting for that.
Yeah, because
right?
they're gonna have public comments, so they're gonna share whatever they want to share in
Yeah.
that meeting. So I don't think we need to have,
No, I think it's February 6th.
as long as we know what we're sharing out, which is that we want everyone to come on February 6th, I feel like that's enough.
Yeah. I think so. Everybody's got to review, obviously, the packet previously and make sure that we, you know, review everything in there.
so how are we getting that out to the community that there's a meeting on the 6th?
Hmm.
And this is what we're going to discuss and we'd like everybody to come besides just telling our friends.
Sure. I mean, I'm not, I don't know how this works. I'm just throwing this out there. I'm happy to make something in Canva. If it's helpful, a post that we can all share on social media. We can obviously put it in the Gateway Community Group. I think we should share it within our communities, obviously. I don't know if there's a way that we do that typically with getting it to all the proper people in the communities.
Typically send it out to HOA presidents.
Yeah,
Right.
so if we could send something like that so that they're sharing that in their individual Facebook groups and social media. Next door, like all
Nextdoor,
those things.
Put it on next door.
I mean, I'm happy to make something if that's helpful.
Well, we do have a district PIO. Why don't we
Yeah,
let the
so,
PIO do
Yeah,
it?
I mean, I don't know how that normally goes, so just tell me. But if we just get one thing to share, perfect.
So.
Yeah, to get that word out to everybody if we can.
Maybe even show some, you know, have a scrolling picture before the meeting of the Christmas event that we had, showing people
Yeah.
and how that went, so people can kind of look at it and say, wow, that was, I wish I was there,
Mhm.
or I was there,
Mhm.
and boy, it was really great. We have to sell
And
excitement.
the 4th of July. 'cause I was
Yeah,
at the
I mean, if
pool.
there's
Yeah.
pictures of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good idea.
But we're talking about it, but nobody's putting it together. And I'm gonna get Bob, I would recommend Bob be the guy who stands there and talks about it. because he does the best job of that.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll trip over myself to say the things that you guys are saying,
I
but
mean, if somebody sent me all the pictures. I
we
could
need,
do it as a
we need to
PowerPoint
have something
presentation.
put together.
Because I know they're on social media.
That's
Well,
what you,
the PAO
what
put
Paul
that
was
together.
talking about.
Yeah, the PIO should
If
be able to
anyone
do
that's
that.
Here, we just have a quick couple of minutes on this is the 4th of July party,
Mhm.
and this is the Christmas party.
So staff will work on the presentation
Okay.
and also getting out the communication portion as well, prior,
Okay.
well in advance.
My
As I-
only concern there is what do we do if we want something changed in it, right? That's why I mentioned the meeting. I know it's a commitment to have another meeting ahead of time, but I still feel like it might be beneficial if we could have that prepared a week ahead of time. We meet here to discuss that. It would be great. If not, email, great. I'm not sure if there's an email thread for this group. I haven't gotten an email, but
We cannot email each other directly. We have to
no,
post
as
it.
the group, the group itself,
Yeah,
right? So as far as information being passed for the group, I don't know if there's like an email that is sent to the group. I'm not in it or have.
yeah,
Yeah.
George just sends us an email
Okay.
from time to time. All right, so who wants the meeting, pre-meeting? January, what is it, 16th or whatever it is?
I would vote for that. I would vote for that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean. I think it's a good idea.
That January 16th?
Yeah.
I will not be able to attend that meeting, but I understand why you would want to have it.
Okay.
Be ready for it. It's not like.
Do we even have to have a quorum for that? It's just whoever.
We're not voting on anything. I don't.
We're not voting on
Need
anything.
quorum.
We just,
Yeah.
it's just input, right?
Right,
Yeah,
So,
So that's the January 16.
but we still have to record minutes. We still have to.
You still have to report,
Yeah.
and it still has to be posted prior.
right.
So,
Right.
and that would give it the next week to.
okay, so we'll do the
And the-
January 16th, 1:30, and then starting February 6th, we're gonna have once a month.
Once a month.
And
yeah.
that would give the district 2 weeks to put the presentation
Back
together.
together after that.
Yeah.
And if we want to add,
You know,
And that would be 10
if they
days to
have-
change
if
things.
They have it ready for us to review.
right,
That would be even better, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. On the
Yeah, yeah.
16th, have like the
Yeah.
first round of
Yeah.
a presentation. And
Yes.
maybe it's a quick meeting, we come together and we're like, oh, that's perfect, great.
Yeah.
We're done. Or, these are the changes we'd like to see in the presentation and,
I'll put $10, there's gonna be changes.
Probably.
absolutely.
Okay, so we'll slate that as a working group,
Okay, yeah.
and then we'll move forward. We'll make the changes in between that and the actual evening meeting on the 6th.
Right.
I'm looking at agenda items for the 6th being talking about Playmore Playground, proposed phase 1 master park plan, overview of the dog park, and to start it all off, Winterfest recap.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
To be
I,
the
let,
entire,
let-
basically.
so just to be clear, there's not going to be any pretty pictures of the park plan. There's not going to be any pretty pictures of the dog park to fun park. It's going to be very rudimentary drawings and pictures, everything that you all have seen, just compiled into a
Mhm.
PowerPoint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Understood.
and also too, maybe if we could, for the presentation, a list of events that you compiled already,
Mm-hmm.
maybe throw that in there just so that people see that there are events coming up in the future. You have to look out for them.
Good idea.
Question, could we also, depending on the timeline regarding the survey, if we were to have that formatted and ready at that time too, could we present the public the survey then? So can we kind of line it up where, that's the first time we release it to the community? And then at least the people in the room, if we could get people in the room, would fill out the survey.
I like it.
We could definitely try. I don't
If it could be
yeah.
done.
I owe you guys an answer on that one, because we'll see if we're able to format that out in a way that we can distribute it.
All right. So that's it for next meeting's agendas?
Mhm.
All right. So we will adjourn the meeting at 2:24. And we'll meet again January 16th. Yeah. The meeting's adjourned.
Just a wrench.